Hi, I'm Mike Helms. I'm the founder and CEO of Alumni Ventures. Today's topic, everyone watches women's sports, why venture capitalists are investing in the space, something we're really excited to give you some insight in how we're thinking about it. Obviously, in the world of AI and robotics, we think sports is a great high touch, good business and very investable. So it adds to a nice diversified venture capital portfolio, and we're going to dig into that a little bit today. So before we get going, just our disclosures briefly. The views today are mine and the views of Alumni Ventures on the investment landscape. It's not an offer to buy or sell any securities, which are only made pursuant to formal legal documents and disclosures. So with that, just 2 seconds about me. I've been in the area of entrepreneurship, technology, venture capital my entire career. I founded Alumni Ventures a decade ago, really from a personal experience of wanting to get access to higher quality deals in quality and quantity. And we've spent the last decade trying to bring venture capital in a smart, simple way to more people. And we've been quite successful. We have just about 11,000 customers. We've raised over $1.4 billion. We're one of the most active venture capital firms in the world. We exclusively are co-investors, and we have over 100 employees with our back office in Manchester, New Hampshire, but our investment teams in the venture hubs, Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, and Chicago. Our trophy case, yes, our trophy case, we're pretty well thought of. We're quite proud of our reputation as, especially among portfolio company CEOs, as being helpful, knowing our role. We like to think we're a favorite aunt or uncle. We basically leave you alone, but try to be very helpful when we can, mostly through connections and the power of our network. So we have a very good network. And in our business, it's really the quality of the deals. So, if you want to get a sense of some of the companies that we are currently investors in, it's broad and deep. We publish something called the Apex 50, which are companies that just, I think, give a sense of the AV portfolio. We encourage you to check that out. And as I said, our perspective and some of the thoughts I'm going to share with you today are come from the amazing people we work with. So an incredible group of entrepreneurs and founders. And again, we co-invest alongside firms like this, which are have great reputations for doing well and being amazing lead investors. So let's get into it. So first part of the thesis is AI and robotics are one of the most profound technical innovations of our lives. And you always want to look for counter trends, ghost trends, etc. We have a thesis that as the world gets increasingly high tech, people are going to increasingly crave high touch. And sports is one of those areas that is very human, pretty fundamental to the experience, huge passion, generational interest, and not likely to be replaced by robotic golf. So we think it has a great future, probably an improving future. We think we have a point of view that there's arbitrage to be had and good returns where Women's sports, we think, is a really attractive niche. We're seeing that in the data, that there's huge uptick. Some of the things here going on in the WNBA, the Women's Women Cup, Women's NCAA tournament, but yet there's a lag with coverage, money, valuations, etc. So we think it looks a lot like an emerging venture business. And again, this is in a context of a well-diversified portfolio, obviously, both across asset classes and within a venture portfolio. So Alumni Ventures isn't all of a sudden going to go 90% into sports, but this is a piece, and we like to share our view of the world pretty transparently with our community. So that's our take. The data says women are an opportunity. So a few of the reasons why. Starting to get coverage. Again, as media gets more diversified, it doesn't take a big centralized authority to provide interest in viewership. We have had a generation now of women and men understanding women's sports, playing sports. Viewership is growing consistently to the positive. And we just think the breadth and depth of this is, we're believers in all sports, but women's sports in particular, we think has investable upside. I mentioned this a little bit, which is people want to get out. You can, when you digitize something, take music, for example, there's a couple of things that happen. You can get any song at an incredibly low price anytime on your phone, but Taylor Swift concert broke all records because people want to be together. There's something fundamental about humans with humans that goes back pretty fundamentally to the Colosseum, etc. And we just think sports is a perfect embodiment of that. So fandom, attending events, attending games, again, as our lives increasingly become technology and AI driven, we're big believers in high touch spaces and sport events. And this is on theme. We also think this generation and the sport and the attention of viewers, it's an attention economy, and the ability for people to hear stories, follow athletes. The Caitlin Clark phenomenon, I think, is a relatively powerful example of this, of people liking the story, people liking the persona, and it just totally transforms an industry. So it has kind of a tipping point. And women's basketball, we think over the past few years, it's been building, and it really hit the tipping point with Caitlin. So I think we're going to see that continue to transform women's basketball. The ability to edit and intermediate this is now no longer in the control of old white men in New York. And the title of this event is Everyone Watches Women's Sports. I think the viewership for Caitlin Clark and her run in the NCAA tournament, I think, points to where this is all heading. And we're seeing the money follow the attention. Obviously, the data, eyeballs go where people are, and so they're gonna continue to follow it. So this bodes well for the economics of investing in women's sports. And women's sport investing doesn't have to be just buying franchises. There's a lot of other ways to play it, but follow the money is a pretty good rule. So demographics are in our favor. We think there's undervalued assets, and this is on trend for the next 5 to 10 years. So those are the kinds of things you look for when you look to invest in a space. So we think the timing is now. We have been active in the space, just not recently, but here are 5 examples of companies to watch. Some of these we're invested in, some not. Some we're watching closely. There are others that we can mention here, but again, there's more ways to play this than just trying to buy a women's volleyball franchise. Although we think women's volleyball is an area of pretty good potential, so we're looking at that closely. So, how is this actionable? Obviously, we think that most in the audience aren't going to go out and buy a professional sports franchise, but we do think it is investable. And what we try to do at Alumni Ventures is make venture capital an actionable way for one to participate if you too believe in this. So we have, we're a retail venture shop. We have a variety of investor types that we work with. Our customers are varied. We have tech enthusiasts. We have people who just are dipping their toe into venture capital for the first time. We have people who have made it and are really paying it forward and staying young and relevant by supporting entrepreneurs trying to build things. We have people that are seeking alpha, that are looking to hit home runs. And we just have very methodical investors who, emulate Warren Buffett and just try to be objective and unemotional. And they just view venture capital as a smart way to diversify and build wealth. All kinds are welcome with it. In our family, in our network, as I mentioned, we have just about 11,000 individuals. They come in all shapes and sizes. And again, from an investing standpoint, this is one thing where we'd love to talk to you. Whether you're interested in our women's fund, our sports fund, we have a fund that is very much for designed for people's kind of first venture capital fund. It all starts with a conversation. So we encourage you to reach out. Our people love to talk, listen, understand where you are in your journey. Again, as I mentioned, we have all types, and we have a way to work with every one of those types of personas and to help you meet your goals. We want to be your venture partner. We are big fans of sports. We think women's sports is a niche within that. That fund is available, but we have a whole family of funds. Again, encourage you to hop on the phone and chat with us. And with that, I'm going to take a few questions from the people out there listening today. We have an online chat, so if you have a question, just go over in GoToMeeting and type it in, and we'll try to answer those. Are there any women's sports leagues or organizations currently undervalued that present particularly compelling opportunities? Yeah, if I were to mention one, I think women's volleyball is one that we're very interested in. Again, I think there's a lot of ways to play it beyond buying into leagues and teams, but women's volleyball is very strong at the collegiate level. It has it works really well on TV. It is very fast. It is very exciting. Um, Again, the dynamics of the size of the ball and the pace of this game and the scoring, the ability to do it, in a kind of a reuse facility. So you basically play in a pre-existing volleyball or basketball facility. So we think women's volleyball, which some leagues are just getting off the ground, is one in particular we find pretty interesting. What new revenue streams are emerging in women's sports? Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I think as media, sports, everything becomes more digital and more distributed and more direct, we think there's really some innovator's dilemma going on with sports franchises. So the ability to get to know the athletes directly, with new technology, new platforms, new events, we think is actually one of the interesting aspects of this. And again, we are really in an attention economy. So if you get people's eyeballs in time, you'll eventually get their wallets. And there's some pretty innovative, interesting companies experimenting in that space. So yeah, it's one of the things beyond kind of TV deals and ticket sales. We think that there's some really interesting potential that we're going to see from sports in the next decade. How can I capitalize on these trends? Can I invest retirement money? Again, yes. I mean, one of the tricks of venture capital on which I started the business was access for regular people. So for accredited investors, we created funds, including ones that are broad-based, technology-based, but also we have a women's fund and a sports fund. We think, all great investing is a form of seeing something that others don't, taking risk, getting in early, but by putting together a big diversified portfolio with really strong lead investors, we think kind of the risk reward can still be very, very attractive within a portfolio. So again, just encourage, if you're interested in any of our funds, we encourage you to get on the phone. We want to talk to you. We want to walk you through it. We want to be fully transparent about what venture capital is like and how it works and what you should expect. What impact does increased investment in women's sports have on the broader sports industry? Well, it's competitive. It's competitive for eyeballs. I think you're competing with digital entertainment. You're competing with streaming. You're competing with gaming. Obviously, is a huge industry, but the interesting thing about women's sports is, it's really it's watched by men as well. So I think the fact that these things are emerging is, I just think, a societal trend. And again, we like to time machine ahead 10 years. And is women's sports going to be the same or bigger or smaller? We like the idea it's going to be much bigger, both from the tailwinds of AI and robotics and digitalization. So people will have more time and more resources to invest in this attention. And we just think that there's a gender gap that's closed in watching these. I think it's going to be a different mix. I think there are gender differences and preferences in how this goes about, and I think those are opportunities. So we're looking at this purely as a investment opportunity that we think belongs in venture portfolios. And as everyone is focused on big tech and AI and these things, you can make a lot of money uh, in women's sports and in sports in general. So I'll wrap up today. Those are great questions. Again, just conclude by, this is an area we believe in. Check out our funds, speak to us, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks for your time today.